I need to be an innovator, which means I need to take an idea and just spin an innovation. All right. That's where 99% of people get success. The 1% become Elon or someone else who invents something new and gets it to the market that no one's ever heard of. But everybody's caught in that 1% mindset when in actuality,
Right.
your abundance opportunity is to become part of the 99%. And that's the rest of us who simply innovate products. Have you had a crock pot ever in your life?
I have. I was just going to say, let's get an example out of this one.
Yeah. Have you
We
ever had a
all
crock pot?
understand the
Okay.
slow cooker. Yep.
Sure. Grandma's crock pot, right? The old
Yep.
fear and kicks in the safety component. Will it burn the house down?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast. This is the podcast where you hear real stories of people just like you who become extraordinary leaders. You'll learn valuable lessons from their lives, lessons that you can apply to become the best leader you were created to be. When leaders are intentional, lives are changed. I'm Sean Olson, your host. I am a business owner, author, speaker, and obviously podcast host of the Intentional Leader Podcast. If you could help us out today as we get going, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave some comments, make all the algorithms happy so we can expand our audience and intentionally impact more people. Today, I'm excited to have my guest, NeilTwavoltage. Neil is a great man here in the United States of America. He is, first of all, a husband and father. I love that's what you lead off with because those are our most important roles. He also is a business owner, podcaster, author, and speaker. Neil, welcome to the Intentional Leader Podcast.
Thank you for having me on, Sean. It's good to be here this morning.
Absolutely. And I know you have your own podcast too, so
Yes,
you're
sir.
used to this and having these conversations.
Yeah.
You know, we lead off every conversation on the Intentional Leader Podcast with an open-ended question. Hey, Neil, just kind of walk us through your professional life and leadership lessons learned along the way. Tell us about
Okay.
Neil.
Well, that'll be a big topic, I think. We'll try to keep it small to some degree. I've lived a couple of lives in my time here as a businessman and as a person. So it's kind of hard to explain it all in simple terms, but I'll get through it. The end result is that, at this point, I'm a businessman who's focused on the e-commerce world.
Mm-hmm.
We are an incubator that kind of builds and grows products out. Now, I didn't start there. I actually got to this point through affiliate marketing. And originally from consulting and technology consulting specifically, in the high-tech mobile oil and gas technology space. Did a lot of that, and then eventually, kind of moved into this space I'm at now. So I kind of pivoted through a number of areas, ups and downs, in order to end up where I kind of feel like I'm a real businessman. I'm a real boy now. Because I have a real business.
Exactly.
Move past the entrepreneurial stage. People think of entrepreneurial as an in block, a final step. But I see entrepreneurialism now or an entrepreneur as somebody who is just trying to figure out what their business finally is before they become a business person who eventually maybe becomes a business investor that kind of moves through the quadrants, right? Myself, I've had to learn that in my entire life. I was in right at the early days of the internet. I know I'm going to date myself, but that wasn't that long ago. But the internet was coming online. I was in college. I was in a music scholarship degree, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be in a van down by the river. That wasn't cool back then. It'd be totally cool now, right? Like my Starlink, I'd be in a van.
But you could have Chris Farley as a friend if you did that, right?
Yeah, I'd be totally cool with that. Not so cool back then, right? That was more seen like a failure. And so I jumped out to get into the internet because there was nowhere else to do it. I just had to go into the corporate world and ride that track because that's where the money was. And with the money there, I could learn on the job, literally programming and teaching myself how to, do the business of the internet because there wasn't any way else to learn it except to just do it. And everyone else was fumbling their way through it too, right? That's how the .com bubble in 99 ended up happening because everybody was fumbling their way through it. I had the blessed opportunity to get hired into a startup called Sprint PCS that was launching their first mobile phone out of Kansas City. And I was one of the first badged employees into that. And that startup went in 5 years to 80,000 employees and became the number one cell phone service in the country. So I got to watch that happen from the inside out, which was crazy fast, right? And that really set the tone. IBM hired me out of that business because of what I was doing in the knowledge management, semantics, artificial intelligence stuff that we were doing back then, which was the precursor, if you will, the grandfather of what you see now.
Right.
And went over to IBM to do a lot of that until 2007 when I fired the man and left, burned the boats and sailed off into the sunset, started my own series of companies.
Yeah. So what led you to fire the man? What was it that kind of put you over the edge?
Couple of things led up to that point. In 2005, my mentor, if you're borrowing the language from the Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was my rich dad. My uncle, business guy who really understood it. His family was a series of entrepreneurs, and he just thought differently about money and abundance and life and business and his connections and everything. And so he taught me a lot. He unfortunately died in an ultralight aircraft incident in 2005.
Wow.
With that, I kind of got out a little bit out of a tailspin because he'd been encouraging me all that time to get out, do my own thing, right? Push, do something, even just buy into a franchise or whatever, like do something.
Right.
And I just wasn't there yet. I was trying to find my way through it. And we had so many great conversations, and he introduced me to so many wonderful people. But it isn't until 20 years later, many times now in the last, maybe the last decade or so, much of what he's told me has become not only a reality, but it is my life now. It is the way I think. And that was not that guy
Yeah.
before. I just didn't understand. I didn't get it. I was told
Yeah.
these things and I couldn't comprehend them. Because I hadn't actually done it. I hadn't experienced it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I got 2 years ahead and thought, man, I have got to do something, IBM kind of said, well, we got to do something too. And they said, you can move to Argentina or go, relocate in some other division. Good luck with that. Or we can give you
Wow.
early retirement. And I said, I'm out. June of 2007. Let's go. So I took that early retirement and bolted out the door. I was 2 months into a new marriage. That we just got married in March. Maybe that's 2 months. March, April, May. No, that's 3 months. And then found out we were pregnant with our first daughter later that year.
Right.
So my wife, who was an RN, BSN by trade, was working and doing her nursing. And we had some of that income. We had the severance, and then found out that she had to be on bed rest. So we went from high income earners in 2 different jobs to her at bed rest and me in a fledgling startup in our first year with no money.
Right before the big crash happened with everything. So
Yeah, the .com thing was my first experience with a large change in our economic status of the country, literally, and then I got to watch that happen again when I started my company.
exactly.
And so that was quite an
Wow.
interesting time to try to be out doing business development in 2007 to 2009 when nobody wanted to hire anybody, nobody wanted to do
Exactly.
business, and I was new and didn't have all the contacts yet.
Yep. Hey, Neil, I want to press pause on something really quick. I want
Sure.
to go back in your story. You said something that I think I heard, and I want to tap into it if that's the case. You were talking about
Yeah.
your uncle and the wisdom that he shared with you.
Correct.
And if I heard you correctly, he was sharing some wisdom that as he shared it, you could not really apply it because you hadn't experienced enough yet.
That's
But
right.
you still heard it and you still took it in. The reason I
You
want to
did.
go back to that for a second is my assumption is your uncle shared that freely and probably even knew you were in a place to process it and engage it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100% accurate. He just was feeding into me things that I needed to understand. I just at that point didn't
Yep.
understand them because they were not applicable to me yet. And I
Exactly.
didn't have the experience to comprehend how to maneuver them, deal with them, execute on them, own them.
Perfect. Yep. And the reason I want to point that out, I want our listeners to catch this because I think this is a rich, rich lesson from your uncle. As leaders today, listeners, as you are leading today, you're going to have younger people coming in, people who have less experience, and you're going to think, I can't share all these things because they're not going to get it. They don't have to get it today. You're setting them up for success down the road. And I just think
Yeah, just
your
pour
uncle
in.
had great wisdom in doing that.
Just keep pouring into them. It's like we pour into children, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in many ways, I was a child in my business walk. I had the experience of a corporate world, but not owning the entire business from end to end. That's accounting and financing and the sales and the marketing and the
Yep.
operations and the people and all the other stuff you have to do. That in many ways, with the corporations are controlled for you. Or even when you're self-employed, it's just you. But if you're going to expand beyond self-employed, of course, that changes dramatically when you get into managing people and all the operations and marketing and
Tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said you moved to affiliate marketing. Were you
Good.
creating affiliate marketing? Were you becoming an affiliate marketer for multiple groups? And I'm asking because a lot of our listeners are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and
Sure.
affiliate marketing is a great side gig in the midst of
It is a
running
side
your
gig for
gig.
sure. Mhm.
So how'd that play out for you?
Well, it ended up being a crime of opportunity. And here's how that happened. Because I was actually learning how to do marketing, doing some courses, buying some things. A guy named Onyx Singal had a Google keywords course on how to do traffic and marketing. So I bought that. And I was just trying to gain knowledge on how to put more people, more leads into my business. And that helped and it did a really great job. And one of the things that actually tied early to was my experience in mobile and how the mobile phones were really moving extremely fast into marketing and advertising and direct response marketing. And so my advertising started on mobile, sending out mobile ads to different affiliate offers across different mobile networks, dating offers, lead gen offers, business development offers, all kinds of leads. And I found that I was actually really good at the media buying. Now, we were doing this on spreadsheets. And
Yeah.
we were doing it on traditional media buying because there was no platforms yet. You have to think about
Hmm.
this time frame. They didn't have the mobile platform interfaces of Meta ads and Google and TikTok like we have now, or Instagram. This is all so cool and so easy now that I don't understand how people complain about now when they should have seen what we were doing back then. We
Yeah.
were, putting Hail Mary passes, excuse me,
Right.
on, ads we were hoping we're going to run, and throwing $500 at it to see if it would go, and wouldn't know until after the whole campaign ran to find out if it actually worked.
Right.
And it turns out I actually, 299 campaigns into these
Wow.
failures, and a pretty good stack of credit card, debt.
Yeah.
The first campaign, which was my 300th campaign, turned to profit, and I was
There you
hooked.
go. There you go.
Yeah, that was
It's
like
a
a dime
great,
bag. It hit
great
me. I was like,
avenue for
damn, I'm
people.
in. Like, I could snort this all day. So, so what ended up happening was I got really good at it, and pretty soon I was making 100 and 500 and 1,000 a day in profit.
But you became good at it because you kept after it.
I did. I kept after it. If I'd given up at 250 or even 299, that one campaign that popped off changed everything because I finally understood what I was missing. I couldn't
Yeah.
see it. It was the experience leading to that knowledge. And once I grasped that, every campaign after that became successful, a much higher rate of success, like 80% versus none, because I could
Fantastic.
understand what my audience wanted from me in that offer. And it actually got so good that I ended up letting go of the 10 consultants that were working for me because I was
Hmm.
making more money with less headache. And that actually led me to the physical product world, because that process I found had a big failure in it. And that was, I could not control the controllables. And that's lesson number one that my uncle taught me, which was control the controllables.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good segue then. So you roll into e-commerce,
I did.
selling products online.
Yes.
Kind of talk about your journey with that and how you've gone through and learned.
Yeah, so the mobile and affiliate side was really just me running traffic and lead gen, kind of as a side hustle that turned into a full time thing for
Hmm.
other people's products. So I
Right.
couldn't control the outcome of that product, and if somebody changed something, if some piece in the middle broke, or they simply shut the offer down, I was hosed. So
Hmm.
I couldn't control the outcome, and I had to end up shifting offer by offer and restarting in offers, and some of them wouldn't last for very long, some lasted for a while, and it was just getting extremely frustrating. And that led me to the physical product component, which is really branding.
Hmm.
Right. It was really branding because I was just a middle guy running traffic under an affiliate thing, and I didn't control the business, so I didn't control the brand. So I wanted to control the brand, which led me to products, and started to investigate it. And a friend of mine actually was on Facebook one night, and he posted, "Hey, I made my first sale on Amazon FBA," and I'm like, "What the heck is Amazon FBA?"
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what it meant. So when I looked it up, it's called Fulfilled by Amazon. I was like, oh, okay, what is that? And a little more digging, and you'd find out that Amazon, which was a book company selling
Right.
books, had bought a logistics, freight, and management company and
Hmm.
rebranded it FBA. Now it's a completely separate company that Amazon owns still to this day, and it's now the sixth largest logistics company in the world. Planes, trains,
Wow.
automobiles. It's a miracle the dang thing even works, right? You guys know it because products delivered to your door come through Fulfilled by Amazon, right? So what I learned about it was that the products could be shipped by them if I simply sent my products to them, which let me focus on what I was good at, the digital marketing side. For me, I was
Hmm.
like, I have to ship products. I have to package them in my
Right.
garage. I have to do all that. I'm like, no, I'm like, that's not what I'm getting warehouse and all this other stuff. I'm like, oh man, I made that mistake later on. We can talk about that, but I did it anyways at a larger scale. That it failed. But the aspect of that was I can control what I can control, and that is I'm good at the marketing. If Amazon controls the products, that works. So first, I just started flipping products for profit, literally just
Hmm.
finding something, buying low and selling high. It was arbitraging.
Yep.
Yeah, not the greatest model, by the way.
A lot of
Uh,
people try it.
yeah, it doesn't work on scale. Let me tell you how
Yeah.
that goes, right?
Hmm.
Because I later on we started flipping those products and got into private label brands. Hit our first private label brand around 2015, about seven figures, on a product that literally I discovered when I was up one night, feeding my third daughter a bottle. I have four daughters,
Yeah.
and so mom was super tired. I'm a late night owl, anyways. I'd only need like 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and she doesn't, and so I can just go and I'm up late. And I found
Yeah.
that product on an infomercial while I was feeding a bottle, and I got up the next day and I'm like, I think we can sell this product. And we bought a competitor brand product and went out and tested it out. It did great, and then we went on a Hail Mary and bought 2,000 units of a product, created a competitive brand against the other brand, and simply overtook their market share in Amazon. We called it the
Nice.
as seen on TV strategy,
Yeah.
and it actually did really well. And we expanded that into a full brand of products that we owned into seven figures. But there are other crimes of opportunity. I think a lot of us see at times because we need guarantees or we want outcomes that we expect are going to happen, and we want other people to get it from us and all this other nonsense. And we don't always take full responsibility, right? That's one of the biggest challenges for an owner.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to quickly interrupt this podcast to talk to you about something huge that is coming out in August from Energize Professional Coaching. It is the Intentional Leader Network. We've talked about this coming. The Intentional Leader Network, you are going to get an online course on how to become the best leader you were created to be. You're going to have bi-weekly group coaching calls with everybody in the network where you'll be learning content, you'll be given tools, and we'll even have hot seat coaching. You will have the chance to bring your questions to the table, have me coach you in real time with the entire audience listening. And one of the greatest aspects of the Intentional Leader Network is developing a community of friends from all different sectors, all different levels of leadership, learning from one another and taking that learning to the next level. If you're ready to become the best leader you were created to be, look for the Intentional Leader Network at intentionalleadernetwork.com. Join the wait list today. It launches in August. We're looking forward to having you in the network. Thanks. Well, I know e-commerce is a huge thing today, and people use it every day.
Yeah.
I know a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of our listeners have thought about products. Maybe they have a product. They're trying to think of how to get into this. You are a guru in this now. And I know you've created your 4 steps to e-commerce that could really set them up for success. So listeners, take notes on this, or if you have a friend that's wanting to get into e-commerce, take notes for them, send them to the podcast. So Neil, walk us through your 4 steps.
Yeah. Well, gurus don't typically own their own business. They just do the consulting. I actually have 9, now 12 brands that we control that are owned by us and operated by my operators every day.
Congrats.
We have another 12 beyond that, which we control through operations. And then I have 49 clients we're responsible for who are operating every day. So we actually do it. We own it. We're in the trenches every day. Very important. But at the end, what people need to understand is if you're a seller already and you're listening to this, or you want to become one and you're an aspiring entrepreneur, here are 4 things you have to know about selling on Amazon. The first is, what the hell do I sell? Okay. Yeah. Most people come. I had a consulting call a long time ago with a guy, and I got on this first consulting call, and we spent an hour going through the process. And here's what I did, and here's what you can do, and here's where, how you can look at your conditions of environment around you, products you buy, things you've already consumed. Look at those and say, okay, could I sell one of those? And start that process, that condition of training your brain to think differently out of consumerism and into becoming a producer. We get through that call, and at the very end, the very nice guy, he kind of comes to a point. Can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He goes, but what the hell do I sell? So after all that, he still didn't quite grasp the concept. But here's what it means to you if you're thinking about this. It isn't about the product anymore. It is about the data that supports the product. Okay. We sell AI listings created through AI mechanisms to AI engines so that it believes we're the better product. When it understands that, it will overlap an audience of people it already knows exists that want that product in 30 seconds or less, and then says, hey, this is the one you want because I believe it's the best one. And when that product is ordered, then this big operation called Amazon FBA packs it, ships it, and delivers it for me. Mm-hmm. Now, when the person gets the product, of course, the outcome is I need a good product. That's actually the second biggest consideration. I need a great product, actually, that when they open, it doesn't break, and they expect good packaging, and they actually expect a good outcome, so good that they won't return it, and they'll leave a positive review. So that's the second most important thing. The first most important thing when the what the hell do I sell category is to find a product that has what's called a customer need or customer intent that is already driven by the market. See, I don't need to be an inventor. I've been one, and I've been on patents, and that failed miserably. Yeah. I need to be an innovator, which means I need to take an idea and just spin an innovation. All right. That's where 99% of people get success. The 1% become Elon or someone else who invents something new and gets it to the market that no one's ever heard of. But everybody's caught in that 1% mindset when in actuality, your abundance opportunity is to become part of the 99%. And that's the rest of us who simply innovate products. Have you had a crock pot ever in your life?
I have. I was just going to say, let's get an example out of this one.
Yeah. Have you ever had a crock pot?
Okay. Slow cooker. Yep.
Sure. Grandma's crock pot, right? The old fear and kicks in the safety component. Will it burn the house down somewhere in some history? Some grandma burned horribly to death because of a crock pot, and it became a legend it became myth. That's now, true, right? Regardless of what we think. Instapot. You ever heard of them?
Absolutely.
They literally came out and just were not your grandma's crock pot. We have safety
Mhm.
features, we have cooking features, we have better things, or basically an enhanced crock pot. That was just an innovation. It's $1 billion company now, right?
Yep.
So who invented the next step, or innovated, I should say, the next step? Air fryers. Air fryers are literally another cooktop, countertop cooking device that simply expands beyond the original premise, and it is just an innovation. Okay.
Mhm.
There are millions of those product innovations out there. All right. From outdoor to home and kitchen to electronics, everything can be innovated. It doesn't have to be invented. And once you comprehend that, finally, you will see that literally anything you probably bought in the last 180 days on Amazon, by Amazon's own admission, 70% of those products are sold by third party sellers like us, right? So why not you?
Mhm.
So really what it gets down to is once you discover that those products are everywhere and you simply start making a list of them, write them down, the real
Mhm.
concern is the second thing. You have to go by the numbers. You have to run a business by the numbers. You cannot run a business by gut feel. So many people
Right.
make this mistake, right? This is such a big one. If you're going to sell physical products online, they have to have more than $12 in net profit per unit. Okay. And net
Okay.
profit, what you keep. A lot of people confuse gross profit, gross margin. They can confuse revenues. Revenues are vanity. We say profit is sanity and cash flow is king. And right. So we
So
want to make sure we
where's the
understand
$12
profit.
figure come from? I
Say
believe
again.
you on it. Where's the $12 figure come from?
Millions of dollars in sales. We've done
Mhm.
more than 30 million in our brands on Amazon. And so I can tell you that with that experience, if you want to make money in the e-commerce world, if you're going to launch on a platform like Amazon or even TikTok or Shopify, and you're going to pay for traffic and media in today's world, you
Yeah.
need a product that has a high enough retail price point so that after your marketing, cost of goods,
Mhm.
manufacturing, all the line items, you got to tag against that. Okay. End up with you actually putting more than $12 in net profit per unit in your bank account after each unit sells.
Awesome.
Okay. If you don't match those metrics, you're going to find that there's a sunk cost, fallacy, a sunk cost fallacy that kicks into the support of those sub $20 products that are going to make you feel like I've got to sell more volume of product in order to make more profitability. And that is also a logical fallacy. If I sell 1,000 units this month at $1 in profit and I sell 2,000 next month at $1 in profit, I've actually lost money. And people
Mhm.
have to get into the numbers and actually understand that, right? So we will
Yep.
sell products that are typically $50 to $100 to $500 in retail price point. We average somewhere between $100 and $500 on most of our products now. We've leveled all of our brand products up. And by the way, on Amazon, the average order value is $69. So if you're selling a
Mhm.
$20 product, you're not even hitting the average amount of buyers on
Right.
Amazon who buy products.
Great stuff. All right.
All
So
right.
keep going through
So
your steps.
the third thing, which is important, once you understand the net profit is where you're at, where your retail price point is as you evaluate the products that are on your list. As I told you the story about the product that I discovered online, your brand component is extremely important. And what you have to understand is you cannot marry your product. There are plenty of
Mhm.
products in the marketplace to go borrow
Yeah.
and innovate against. Meaning, if the product data matches up and we take it to market and we test market it, and the market does not respond positively, and we cannot tweak, or change the conversions, the product goes away and we move to another product. We don't marry that product. We never marry a product, right?
Yep.
All products serve a life cycle. They come to an end
Absolutely.
eventually. And sometimes you may find the next greatest product is your 300th product, not your 299th, like my
Mhm.
campaigns. And you
Yeah.
will discover that one takes you to 8 or 9 figures. So, do you know the number one product that is sold in Apple?
I don't. I
It's the
don't.
AirPods. It's not
Okay.
the iPhones. It's not the iMacs. Their number one most profitable product is the Airphone, but it's like the 15th product they launched.
Yeah.
Right. So if you continue to progress past the products, you realize products serve a purpose. They serve a life cycle. They serve a time. They serve the brand. Are you a smoker by chance?
I'm not.
Okay. You ever heard the brand Lucky Strikes?
Oh yeah.
Okay. But you're not a smoker.
Nope.
So you can't tell me about the product at all, can you?
Cannot say about the product. I just know
Like
what the
what
product is.
packs or whatever. No, but you can tell me about the brand. Isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Have you ever owned a Lexus?
Nope. But I
Okay.
know the brand.
Right, but you couldn't maybe tell me one of the cars, but maybe hardly any of them. The point is, products have a life cycle. It is really the brand that we're down to. And earlier, when I said it's not about the product, it's about the data. That is the most important thing sellers have to keep in mind when they sell in this business. It's the same way in any business. In consulting, it's all about the offer. When you support your business with someone else, or we're just solving problems for ourselves or somebody else all along the way. And that's really important to stay focused on that component, because people get caught in the product. They don't understand it's all about the data. And it's a big thing we have to flip around today. If you get that, you can sell anything to anybody in a box in 30 seconds or less. People are like, what products do you sell? I've sold every product. What I won't sell is the ones that don't sell anymore, and the ones that aren't the most profitable, really, because it gets down to serving that brand. What I want people to do is to remember the brand. The products will continue to change and evolve. That's very big if people get it, right? So that's the third thing. Don't marry your products. Steal somebody else's girlfriend. Do not fall in love with it. Test the market. Test again. Test again. Law of averages are that if I launch 5 products and I have the right data to support that based on net profitability and market demand and what's called customer need, that means a product that is needed by the customer, then 1 or 2 of those products is going to pop off and I will start to achieve my goals. And from there, I will then hedgehog from good to great. You ever read a good
absolutely.
Great book, good lessons for today. You'll hedgehog, down into those products at work, and you'll be like Apple. You'll simply pull in more and more and more of the same products to people who want to buy more and more of the same products in the different packaging from you, literally. And that's a process we borrow from retail. So the fourth thing is to understand that there is so much traffic. There is so many people buying. There's an immense amount of opportunity you can't even possibly comprehend. And when I say the numbers, some people just don't get it. It's part of the things I'll tell you now that maybe in the future you'll get, like I did, because when you hear it, it may not make any sense. But Amazon itself sells around 6,000 to 7,000 units a minute. That's 6,000 to 7,000 units a minute during its average sales times. That will peak up to 9 to 12,000 a minute during holiday periods.
Wow.
Okay. That's a minute, right? This is a freaking machine. Now that's supported by the internet, and the internet has millions and millions and billions of people of opportunity for you to sell your product to. So you have to really start thinking in abundance. So if my product isn't selling, or I'm not really seeing the opportunities, because I'm missing the abundance. I'm still thinking in limiting and scarcity beliefs. And maybe I'm concerned about what I have to put in time, energy, attention, or money wise to make that successful. And you got to break those barriers down. In any business. You have to spend money to make money. Organic traffic is not free. I know everybody thinks it is, but it's not. You have to pay for your traffic. So we have to pay for ours. But there is an organic traffic running on Amazon that we can get access to. We can also pay for that traffic to get access to the people that are already in there buying. 200 million customers are buying an average of over $1,400 a year from Amazon. So my target from a business perspective, if you're following along, folks, is that I want to sell enough product on Amazon in my brand every year that so someone will buy $1,400 or more of my product in a year. Why? Because they're already doing it. I'm not making this up. This is happening already. So I just want to get in front of it. So if I'm selling a $5 product, you see the problem with that, Sean? I've got to sell a $100 or $200 product, and I need to do it at least 10 times a day, which is doable in a system of this magnitude, so that I can get advantage of people who are already buying that much in this marketplace. I'm simply going in there. My products and my brands are being incubated in that channel, and then I'm moving them into multiple channels of traffic after that. Now I can still get a 7, 8, or even 9-figure business off Amazon itself as my first sales channel. Okay. And then I'm going to do a holistic thing. And this is the final point: moving into multiple sales channels, whether it's retail, another platform like TikTok, or opening your own Shopify or website to attract more of those customers, to lower my risk, and to increase the valuation of my company. Because the final thing is, these businesses are worth more in the end than at any time during the business building phase, meaning we do a launch, scale, and an exit within 4 to 5 years, because you can make a lot of money selling these businesses.
Yeah, the exit. That's your step number 5.
That is the exit, which is so important to understanding the value of doing this, redoing this, and then continuing to create that process of opportunity.
Absolutely. And so it's really becoming a serial entrepreneur inside of your own business with multiple.
It is exactly what it is. That's why I have so many brands, and why brands have sold, and why other brands are being grown, and why we're even acquiring brands now under what we call our platinum principle, which again is building that business to an exit. That is where we put our time, energy, attention, and money. Everybody wants short-term gains. I want to do things in 3 to 5 years, that are hard and difficult to do, so that I can live like nobody else can after that 5 years. And when you do these kinds of businesses, you are setting yourself up for generational time and wealth freedom when done correctly, because $1 million in profit with the right channels and market share could exit you for $4 to $5 or $7 million, depending upon the value of the company.
But I like what you just said, and I want to make sure our listeners hear this. with e-commerce today and some of the other things taking place, even like affiliate marketing, because you'll see affiliate marketers are like, follow my program, you'll be making, $400,000
Right.
a year next year and stuff.
All glory, right?
It takes time. It
All
takes
glory, no
time to
pain.
build it. Yeah. And
Of
as
course
I'm
it takes
listening to
time.
your story, Voltage is where it is today and you're doing all these things, but it goes all the way back to Sprint PCS.
That's right.
You've parlayed everything you've learned over the
That's right.
years to bring you to where you are today. Our
Yeah.
business, we have a lot of coaches that look at our business and they're like, how'd you get to be where you are today with your company? And you have all these coaches and you're doing all this. They think it's like an overnight success.
No, it's not.
We've
But I
been
will tell you that when the
we've been
time
busting it
compression comes
hard.
down, yeah, when you add systems and experience
Yeah.
and you compress time down now, I've gotten people in 4 and 5 years to, tens of millions of dollars in sales a year.
Yeah.
Once you can compress that down, now it's a process by which we can repeat because we've been in it long enough. I'm 12 years into this. I'm not changing. I'll do this again for the next 12. Why? Physical products are always going to be an opportunity. The
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms of e-commerce simply just changed one of the medians by which we now acquire those, and that's it.
Right.
So it's not rocket science. It's just another way by which people can acquire products. In the same way you can go down to retail and get products, right?
Yep. So let me ask you this question. Most entrepreneurs never launch. They fail,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because
true.
they're
They'll
thinking
launch.
back to step one, like what in the world do I even sell?
Yep.
And what is that product and that brand? So what would be your advice to somebody who is failing to launch? They're failing to take that step. What's that advice to push them to get going?
Anxiety is the healer of, or excuse me, activity is the healer of most anxiety. If you have anxiety, if you need guarantees, move, do something, take imperfect action. You literally need that experience to build the confidence required for you to get the knowledge of what to do and not to do, which leads
Mhm.
you to the wisdom of how to do it, who to do it with, and where to do it. You cannot simply jump to the knowledge or wisdom. It's a logical fallacy in the argument against doing anything, okay, versus doing nothing. If you're doing
Correct.
nothing, you're always going to fail. If you do
Correct.
something, then expect to fail. Just make sure that you fail forward in those activities, okay? So
Yeah.
that you learn to step up and keep going. The only guarantee you have is whether or not you continue, not whether someone else does it for you or even helps you do it. That's again a misthinking and an incorrect thinking. And I
Mhm.
was in that mindset for a little while back in the day. And when I realized that I had to take the first steps, as soon as I did that, not only did I reach, criticism from people who didn't want me to do that or thought I shouldn't do it, or, all the negativity from friends and
Mhm.
family and close people who are, you're leaving behind. And that's really their biggest problem, is that you're leaving them behind. Is
Yeah.
that once you get through that process and become successful, guess what? They show up later and ask you how to do it. Right. So this is the
Yep.
normal process, but you have to push past that. And it literally is not something that can be motivated from. You can't spend enough time
Mhm.
on the internet watching motivational videos to do it. You literally have to shut all that crap down and go to work.
Mhm.
You have
Yep.
to put in the activity. If you don't think you can put in the time, here's what happens. The basis of not putting in the time to get the experience literally falls into the category of friends, family, and fools, where you will be deceived
Mhm.
into doing things that will take your money, and you will get scammed because it will
Yeah.
justify your worldview. You
Yep.
understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It will justify your worldview. And that if that's what you're attempting to do, then don't start a business. Because
Correct.
what will happen is you will fail, and then you will have the justification of your failure to tell everybody, look, I failed. Of course I failed. I
Mhm.
told everybody I was going to fail. And if that's in your head, then don't start. It is not
Right.
for everyone. It is
Yeah.
really not. Entrepreneurs, I'm sorry, building a business is not for everybody. It takes a thick
Yeah.
skin. It takes tenacity. It takes perseverance above
Yeah.
all things. I went bankrupt in this process.
Yeah.
Right? I went bankrupt. I had the children. The story glorifies itself, but at the end of the day, this room is filled with failures.
Right.
Right? In my process of learning to become a man and become a business owner, I failed a marriage. Back in the
Mhm.
day, I got divorced, and it was sad because 50% of the problem was
Yeah.
mine in that relationship,
Yeah.
right? But I learned that the hard way. So I don't recommend you guys do that, even though I've done
No.
that. But I will tell you that once you understand that boundary, once you understand what you're capable of, you will have the confidence to do so much more once you break past that failure. And it literally is just getting up off the couch and doing freaking something.
Yep. I agree. Most people, and this is why we have our brand internally, the intentional leader, right?
Yep.
People aren't intentional in what they're doing. It's the same aspects. You got to go out there, you have to be active, you have to develop those behaviors. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners are intrigued by what you said today and they're like trying to track this all down. I know you have your book out, which talks about this, and that's a great book they can pick up. We'll have the link for this in the show notes. But at what point would you encourage somebody who's maybe even already got a product out there, but it's not going the way they want it to, or they're thinking about it? At what point do they pull somebody like you in for consulting?
Yeah.
Because it's not, you can't take the place of them doing the work. You just talked about that.
No, I call those alonepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they are because they think that they can ride that horse by themselves. And here's what I will tell you. I've not ridden this horse by myself. There's a whole team of people behind me. I've got a partner for 12 years. My wife has been my partner for 18 years. You are the 5 people that are around you.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have 4 other people or 5 other people who look like you want to be, who are where you want to go, and who are doing the things that you want to do, you will fail. Yep. So at the end of this, surround yourself with those people. And when I needed to get to those locations, in some cases, I asked, can I be a part of it? Or I paid to get into it in order to get access to it. And that's just a requirement of getting into some of those situations. Or I gave something to somebody out of true, genuine support, and I received something in return. If I'm not willing to do those things, I'm not going to be a part of it. In the book, or the process by which we train, coach, and mentor, it is very exclusive. I've taken only 300 people into what we do in the last 7 years. Wow. So with that, I'm very exclusive about who I work with. I run my own companies. We do our own brands. We got our own thing going. But with the business builders group I run, and what's talked about in the book, you learn that my methodology is to raise up CEO entrepreneurs who become operators in the e-commerce world. And then as they become successful in their businesses under our wings and our strategy and process and technology, et cetera, then they become operators in our realm as well. We'll incentivize them through profit sharing to help us run companies. As we acquire companies, then we have them come and help us work in that mechanism. And so I take those folks, and as we raise them up, and we offer some of them the opportunity to work with us. That's why I don't have any employees. Okay.
Fantastic.
I got rid of my employees. So I raised them up through that time to build that forward. If that's somebody who needs that support, they're going to show up and they're going to prove to us that they want to be a part of that. There's an invite process. It's talked about in the book as we go through the strategies, which is a strategy book, folks, just so we're very clear. It is not a tactical implementation. You can go and learn about tactical implementation all over the interwebs nowadays. There's a million videos about tactics. What people miss is the strategy. What they miss is the business fundamentals about how to build a company that becomes part of the 8%, right? 92% of companies fail in years 4 through 5.
Correct.
I'm beyond the 8%. And with that, I can show you what's required to become part of that, because 92% of them do fail. They fail at the wrong metrics, the wrong practices, the wrong marketing, the wrong business operations, the wrong understanding of money as a tool and how to change into an abundance mindset. That is such a win when you finally grasp that, or can be willing to grasp that and be coached by it. And those are the things we talk about on my website at voltagedm.com. We talk about it in our trainings. I've got I eventually made friends with Kevin Harrington in 2016. He came to my event, and as that process, he now wrote the foreword for my book, and we, as part of our As Seen on TV strategy, is part of him. And we have a presentation, and he and I talk about how we build these up and grow them into an omni-channel, multi-channel space. Nice. And that's all in there to check out if you guys are interested in it.
Awesome. So great opportunities. Well, Neil, it's been great to have you today.
Thanks,
we finish every show with the same question. It's a quick tip question. Okay. What is something our listeners can do intentionally today to be a more effective leader?
Stop making excuses. Excuses for time, excuses for resources. Money is not limited. It's just not near you. Okay. Opportunity is not limited. It's just not near you. So your opportunity will begin at the end of your excuses. And it literally goes through action. And so if you will take some imperfect action along the way, something perfect will happen. Literally.
Great tip. Great tip. Listeners, I encourage you to do that. Well, Neil, it's been great to have you. Listeners will have all of his links in the show notes today. Please follow up on that and let us know your success in following his steps and strategies. Neil, thanks a bunch. Look forward to keeping the conversation going down the road.
Thank you, Sean. It's been an honor. I appreciate you having me on.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast presented by Reenergize Professional Coaching. Be sure to see the show notes for links to Reenergize Professional Coaching and links to contact our guests. Now, hit that subscribe button so that you are alerted with every new episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast.